Alrighty, in this video, I want to go ahead and cover basically everything that has been done from version 2.2 all the way up to version 3.0. Now, version 3.0, the reason for that big version change is because it also contains the map editor. So I'll be covering that here shortly as well. But as always with these, I'm going to go ahead and read through the list really quick. So starting from the bottom right here, this for the most part is just a bunch of bug fixes and a couple little helper functions. So here you can see I added some functions to the Firearm to help with the hybrid projectile setups. So what I mean by hybrid setups are where, for example, Insurgency, they send out a line trace that goes, I think it's like 20 or 25 meters, give or take. I'm not entirely sure what actual range they use. And if that doesn't hit anything, then they spawn a projectile and the projectile takes over. So basically it's using hit scans for the very close-up shots where, the projectile is or the line trace is impacting within X distance. And for the longer range shots, they spawn a projectile to allow projectile physics and all that to take over. Now that is something I pretty much recommend everybody does. I recommend doing that over top of just spawning projectiles for the sake of, well, a little bit of performance. So one, you're not having a crap ton of projectiles being simulated unless they actually have to, like the ones that are going really far. And two, you get the benefits and speed of just a simple line trace for the close-up shots. So that's a big help there. Fixed a bug with the laser casting a shadow. Not sure how I never saw that, but thankfully someone pointed out and I was able to resolve that really quick. Just some small stuff, not really all that important. And let's see. Added some functions here. This was a decently sized one. So I added a function that helps for serializing and deserializing your firearms. So basically this is for storage. Like if you want to get the player's loadout, you will want to serialize their firearm and send it somewhere to a database. So this basically takes all that into account. So all you have to do is simply call serialize firearm and pass in the firearm that you want. You can do this from Blueprint and it will return a JSON string that you can do whatever you want to with, such as sending to an API to store it in a database or just saving it to the player's disk to be loaded later. Then since we have serialization, we also have deserialization. So this deserializes the firearm from that JSON string. So this converts it into a struct that I named ffirearm. So the struct in Blueprint's just called firearm. Then we also have a helper function here to construct said firearm. So basically it takes in the ffirearm struct that deserialized firearm gives us and constructs it for us. So this holds everything from all the parts, like the firearm itself, all the parts such as handguards, barrels, forward grips, as well as their location. So if you move the optic forward, all the way forward, and then you saved it, like you serialized it and saved it, whenever you go to load it up, construct firearm is also going to position that optic all the way forward. So it's going to position it where you left it off. And then we have a helper function just to aid in this for if you want to save it to a disk. So it's called load text from file. I thought I had one that saved it to a file. I guess not. But anyways, there will be more functions to kind of aid in the reading and writing to files later, but this is all that's really needed for now. Redid the model of the IPSTIC target, and this is where I started working on the competitive demo, and that's basically all this stuff here. This is more work in regards to that. Some user pointed this out. I ended up fixing this. So when the weight is set to 0 for the firearm, we had a crash, was divided by 0. So that's now fixed. Finally got this. Oh wait, nope. Still didn't even get it fixed there for the deploying the API. That took me like 5 days. It took me 10 minutes to write the API and 5 days to figure out how to deploy the bloody thing. Rework the demo maps. That's all related to the demo project. And still more work on the demo project. More on the demo project, and here we are. So I fixed a crash that occurred basically when you're packaging, like your packaged projects packaging, and that was when you would go to launch the project. So I included it's somewhere in this list here that I overlooked, but I made it and included an HTTP helper class. So this is strictly to use in C++. So that allows you to very easily interact with databases, serialize and deserialize your structures, that you want to send out and ones that you get received, all in JSON format, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a crash that occurred in that. So that's what that aids to fix. So it's all good to go now. And I finally merged the level editor into the first person plugin. So that was on 12/12. And moving up here to the 13th, this is when the actual submission, well, the actual update was submitted. So this basically contains everything from here and down. So we added some various objects to the map editor. So I'll go ahead and actually just start showing them things there. So let's go ahead and look at let's see, map editor items. So for example, I have a barrel here that you can spawn, an IPsec target, all the netting that I have. Basically everything that I added in the competitive demo is in here, with the exception of just the sticks. So as we can see, it's all this stuff here. So that's all been included for spawning. And I started working on some events that trigger off. So we set up an interface, and these interfaces fire on the actor that you are trying to spawn, or that you're working with. So when you release the object, it fires this. When you grab it, it fires this. When you undo, it fires that. And when you delete it, it fires that. And this is related to the example project. That was when I just initiated the submission. And now on to the stuff that was done today and yesterday. Well, yesterday first. Fixed a bug with typed in changes not committing to the FPS template version. Yes, that's for the demo. Wait, no, this was for the... No, wait, yeah, that was for the demo. And this one here... No, wait, no, this was actually for the map editor. So, yeah, when saving it and loading it, I forgot to connect a pin. Unfortunately, I did this after I submitted, so this is going to be in the next update as well as a bunch of other stuff. And then just related to scale. So when you would adjust the scale, it was not replicating properly to other clients. So when the server adjusted scale, it wouldn't replicate to the clients. When the clients would replicate scale, it would replicate to them and the server due to the way it was set up, but not to other clients. And then we have some fun stuff specific to the FPS plugin again. Due to a user suggestion, and I've been meaning to get around to this, but I never really have, but started working on aiding in switching firearms. So like if you have a primary and secondary, or something like Call of Duty style where you give yourself all the firearms, you have the ability now to easily do that, and everything is replicated and really abstracted away from you. So if you're using Blueprint, or actually even C++ even, you really don't have to worry about any of this. So this right here, let me move this down. It's literally, I set up a basic weapon switcher. This is the only thing you have to do. Like, that's it. So I have a test socket here, which I will show you on the character, is just in front of the face. That's not what I meant to click. So, test socket. So it's just directly out in front of the head. This is for the example portion. So this is meant to kind of be, what do you call it? Simulate being on your back, so to speak. So these have a couple different parameters that you can take in. So if you want to, all right, let me start from the beginning here, how this actually works. So this takes your current firearm, and if you have a socket entered in here like this, then it will take that current firearm and automatically attach it to that socket. Now this is all replicated as well. So like the replication or the attaching is going to be replicated. And as well as if we want to hide the current firearm instead, we can do that too. So for example, if we want to just instantly switch, like at the snap of your fingers, like you don't have a put away animation or anything like that, you can check this. And what it will do is when you go to switch the firearm, like go from your primary to your secondary, it will hide your primary. And that's just kind of what that controls. So we can look at it here. So I press 1, it goes out into that test socket. Whoops. That's right out in front of here. And here you can see I have just a crappy, a Glock that I downloaded off the internet to test with. Press 1 again, and it goes back. So this is to simulate it being kind of positioned on your back, and as you can see, it even has the PMAG in it. But that's what that's kind of meant to take care of. Now we have another function here. This is kind of to aid in actually triggering this if you want to, like for attaching it to different parts of your body. So what this will do is, let's say you have an animation where you put the firearm on your back. Well, you would play that animation and you would set up an animation montage where he releases the firearm on the player's back. that's where you would call attach to socket, and you would pass in that socket. So for example, if I go into here and I press 2, it attaches it to that socket. So, and if you didn't want it to be attached to the socket when you switch the firearm, you just clear that out, and everything else gets taken care of. So I press 1, and now I'm using the Glock, which is inside the firearm because I didn't hide it. And you can switch back and forth. Let me go ahead and hide it. So there we have the Glock, back to the M4, back to the Glock, so on and so on. So that's kind of how that ends up being set up to be taken care of. So again, I'm actually going to move this to the back really quick. So let me copy the name, go to, I guess, spine 2, add a socket, and I'm going to add a preview asset of the whoops, not you, of the receivers. Like so, just so I have a kind of a visual reference. And I guess something along the lines of that. So let's go and play with 2 clients so we can, I guess, see it a little bit better. So let me put the firearm on my back, and I've done so just like that. So this is kind of how that system is supposed to be set up. So even though I was on the client, I was still able to switch the firearm to my Glock and attach it to my back and all that kind of stuff. As well as this works with if you have high lag. So this will be instant on the client, and then everybody else will receive the replication depending on, what the ping is like. So this is supposed to be very fast and responsive, just to kind of avoid any sluggishness or anything like that that you might see in other games, which quite frankly drives me insane. I hate it. All right, next up, the big one. So why we're on version 3.0? Well, that is the map editor. So the map editor, if you haven't been following me or anything like that, is multiplayer ready. So for example, I have this barrel here by default. Here I'm on the client. As you can see, a little camera. So basically you can move everything around, and as you can see, it's very laggy on the server, and that's due to the delay. So I have this as an adjustable value, so you can tweak it however you want. I think default I set it to like 1 second, and then whenever you release it, it also fires off and it replicates the position. So if I snap it over here really quick and let go, so I'll do it quickly to the left and let go, you'll see it replicate instantly. So here we go. As you can see, the second I let go is when it replicates. So this works for rotation, scale, and all of that. And same thing, just the basic deletion and that fun stuff. So I'm going to actually tweak that rate at which it replicates, because for some odd reason that's a little bit slower than expected. So here I just have my example character, my map editor handler component. I'll drop this to something like 0.1 for the replication rate. And you will see now that it is tremendously quicker. As I move it around, you can see it replicates much more often. The same thing goes, you can type in values here. So I'm going to snap this down a little bit to 0 so it's on the floor. And then it goes and it's snapped down. I want to bump this up to, 50. I can do so. Same thing with rotation. So if I press E to go into rotation mode, you can see here it goes from location. Let me slide this over a bit. It goes from location to rotation to scale, and you can adjust all these. And same thing goes, you can adjust these snap amounts. So if I want to change the location snap amount to 50, then I can snap by 50 instead, or I can just put it right back to 5, and I have my small adjustments, or go to 0 and have free control over exactly where I want it. I'll put that back to 0 so it's on the floor. Now same thing goes, you have all this ability for spawning. So here I have a barrel. I'll go ahead and place down, and we'll keep it consistent with the theme. I'll grab an IPSC target and place it over there. So here we have an IPSC target. Let's say I want to go ahead and I'll just position it somewhere in front of this doorway. Gotta rotate it around a bit, and that's pretty straight. And there we go. Hopefully that's not crazy loud. Shouldn't be. Then again, I don't know. And same thing goes, you have all the other objects that you want, and everything just kind of goes how you need. So then we have another window over here, save and load map. So here I'm going to actually hop on the server because this is where it primarily works at. So clients have the ability to save maps. So let's say you're working on a map with a bunch of friends and you each want to save it, like for yourself to have a local copy of. Well, let's say this is client A and he wants us to go ahead and save the map. He just enters in the map name here, hits save map, and the map will appear. I should probably actually have the project directory open. I can delete that. It'll appear here, so I'll save it. As you can see, here is the new map. So the clients can save it. However, if they're playing with a bunch of friends, the clients cannot load the map back up. So here as you can see, we have an IPSC target. I'll just, for the sake of visualizing it, I'll have the barrel above the ground. And we have the net over there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a name of example map. Save it. As you can see, here it is. It appears. I'm going to close down the level and try to replay it. So I want to go ahead and I'll just go into this view here. I'll go to the map loader as a client, select example map, and hit load map. As you can see, nothing has happened. It's not changing. Now let me go on the server and I'll do the same thing. I'll go to the map loader, load up example map. As you can see, everything is now loaded on both the server and the client. So everything's replicated for the map loading as well, obviously, you just saw. So that kind of takes care of that. So only the server can be the one that actually loads up the levels that you want to play. So if you want to load up another level with a friend, well, then you have to make sure that they are the ones that, well, they are the host and they load the level. So you can basically just send them this file if you have a custom map that you want them to play, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Now you'll see the naming here is indexed shoothouse_day, and then we have the actual name of the map we saved it with. So that is because it uses the levels themselves as kind of a form of filtering. So let me go to another map. I'll go to the shooting range. I haven't been on this one in ever. I don't even know why I still have it here. I need to kind of get rid of it. And I'll go ahead and just play as server so we have full screen. So here, if I go to the map loader, as you can see I'm clicking, I don't have any maps here, even though I have this example map. That's because we're on a different level. So if I go back and I'll just leave it map 1, I'll save it as map 1. Here you can see it's indexed with, or sorry, not indexed, it's prefixed with shooting range. So that means we can then go to the map loader and we have map 1. So it filters out which maps can be loaded based upon which one you are in. Oh, I thought that one was messed up. I have not built the lighting on this map, I guess. So that's probably the reason for that. So that's how all that gets taken care of. Let's see, is there anything else? I think that pretty much covers the gist of it. The item for the item spawning, that's all driven through a data table. So if we head over here to the UI, data table map items, basically it's just the item name, the item class, and the item thumbnail of which you want to spawn. So this works with all actors, so if you have one that is supposed to be replicated, for example, and doing some specific thing, like when you shoot it, the target falls down, this functionality gets carried over again because it's, well, an actor. And let's see, there was one more thing I wanted to say. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, right. So the way this has been built is similar to how the FPS plugin's built. It's built kind of as a framework to do whatever you want to with. So it's very simple how everything works. It's laid out. So you can see I have all the widgets here. So if you want to explore that and see how that works, you can change it up and make it basically how you want. So the character is independent, just like the FPS character. However, I have provided a custom character movement component that just makes things like movement a little bit easier. So here, as you can see, we just call move forward, right, up, turn, look up, and all that kind of stuff. Instead of doing it yourself, it just kind of gets taken care of behind the scenes. And same thing, we have a new function called move up. That allows us, so when we press Q and E, so here's E and here's Q, we can just go straight up and straight down. So it just kind of helps with flying. Same thing goes, we have a movement mode. So when you enter the movement mode, that allows you to go around and fly. So right now I'm in movement mode. I can fly around, I can turn, all that kind of stuff. When I let go of the right mouse button, I'm now in the normal mode, so I can go through and select things, interact with all the stuff in the world. Basically how, like I made it to be very similar to how the Unreal Editor works, just because I like that and the flow is quite nice. Oh, I didn't know E cycles through those, or not E, spacebar. That's good to know. So that's what that kind of takes care of. And then you can see we just have some basic functions for grabbing objects. Here we have switching to different modes. So here everything like that you want to do is through the map editor handler. So here we want to switch to rotation when we press E. We just call show rotation on the map editor handler. Same thing for scale, movement, deleting actors and spawning them and all that kind of stuff, which the map editor takes care of. So the map editor itself makes calls to the map editor handler. So if I drag this out, go to the map editor, you can see here we have for spawning, spawn actor. For the selected actor, we can get the actor's name and all their transform, and we can set the transform. For a selection, we can grab it. We can perform a mouse trace to see what we hit. We can release and set an actor to use. For the initialization, this is just the basic stuff. So here we can kind of do checks. So do we have a valid return pawn? This is for going forward and back. So here I'm in the pawn, or the map editor pawn. I press Y again, which is my default key, and I now repossess my previous character. So that's just a function there that's kind of set up to make it easy to switch to and from your own characters. Then we have the basic init, which you kind of have to call. You can see that here. What do I call init? Maybe I'm doing that in the other character here. Oops, wrong portion. Let's see. Press Y, server to map editor. All right, well, I'm calling init somewhere. I'm just being blind as to where it is, so I'm not too worried about it right now, and I actually need to remove that guy. Oh, and then we also have that return pawn, so that's obviously what allows us to return back. Then we have unpossessed to return pawn, so this allows us to go kind of back to the pawn itself that we had set. Then stuff for the gizmo, so we can get the gizmo type, which is location, rotation, or scale. We can show the movement, rotation, or scale of the gizmo, so we can cycle through them. And same thing we have for editing. We have deleting actors, deselecting the actors, getting the rotation replication rate that we are replicating at, getting our snap amount for this for like UI and stuff, setting the snap amount, and our basic undo. Oh yeah, that's right, that's what I forgot to mention. It does have undo. So for example, if I go over here, I'll take this barrel, I'll move it up, left, back, and I guess up again. So then I press T, and it undoes back to the start of the or back to the start of it. So this works on several actors. So for example, if I add another barrel, I'll move it there, I'll move it up, move this one up, and way right. I press T, 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 and it reverts them all back. So it's not actor specific, it works just like normal Control Z. So that's kind of the gist of that setup there. All right, that pretty much covers everything in terms of the update. As you can see, it's quite a big one, mostly just for the sake of the map editor, because at least as far as I was aware, there's no other multiplayer map editor on the marketplace. So the map editor is also a work in progress, so it has been released and submitted for version 1.0 to be a separate plugin as well. I'm not sure when that will be approved, hopefully in the next day or so. It got denied. The first one, I forgot to do some stuff. I had some directors that need to be cleaned up, or sorry, redirectors that need to be cleaned up, and all that kind of just some small stuff like that. So hopefully it should be good to go, and it'll be approved in the next day or so. So whenever it does, I'll have a video announcing that and just kind of re-showcasing the features of it. So that's going to be all for this video, and I hope you enjoy.